And good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, the Civic Media app, and also you can catch the show on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel there as well. I am Chad Holmes, joined again by former Wausau West head hockey coach B.J. Brandt. Good to see you again. You decided to come back after the first one last
I
week.
did. I enjoy it. I really do enjoy this. So thanks for having me back again.
Absolutely. And tonight, again, we'll be talking a lot of hockey and basketball. Tonight, we're flipping it around. We're going to start off the first hour with a lot of hockey talk. And our coach guest is from the world of high school hockey. In fact, going to have the old coach and the new coach. Travis Brown, the first-year head hockey coach at Wausau West, will be joining us coming up at 6:30. And then we'll talk some basketball in the second hour. Our student-athlete guest for this week from Marathon High School and their girls basketball program, also an outstanding softball player as well, senior Miley Halke. She'll be with us at 7:06. So that's coming up here on the Big High School Sports Show. But let's jump into hockey because now we are into the role of it. And I mean, and something I said on the air last night, especially for a team like West, but I think there's other teams as well. You don't just put your toe in the water. You go right in with an incredible amount of games, some tournaments, some trips. And as I said, it's not just West. I know Spash has a big game Saturday, and there's no just feeling each other out like a 15-round boxing match.
No, I mean that's happened with all winter sports. When you think about the timeline that you have and the way the holidays fall this year, you've got to have games, and you got to have a lot of them early on, or really focus on sprinkling them out through the holidays. But you want to give your families some time and respect that time. So, but yeah, you look at the schedules for both boys and girls basketball, and then girls and boys hockey. Like it's a sprint early. Shocked me last night that Wisconsin Valley Union, that was their first game of the season. So they had one canceled earlier in the season because of a goalie injury for the team they were supposed to play, so they had to cancel. But I mean, when you look at December 2nd being your first game and you've been practicing since November 10th, that's a lot of practice in there.
Well, sometime later in the season, we will have Adam Jacobson, the Marathon boys basketball coach, on, and they do it every year where they're, I think, always the last team to play their first game. They played their first game last night, and that's the way it is every year. They never play during Thanksgiving week. They never play earlier than Thanksgiving. They don't play the weekend of, and yet it seems to work because he says he wants that time on the practice court, because once you get into the season, you don't have that much time. This way, you just have a couple of solid weeks to try to get ready. And I think there's different ways of going about it. That way, it's worked pretty well for Marathon boys basketball.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. Sometimes coaches like to feel it out through the game process and scheduling everything and getting you into the game action. And I can see if you wanted to install and get things set up and you know, for basketball, run your offense, against different defenses, learning all those things. Yeah, I mean, it's two different ways to do it and certainly work for them.
Well, let's look at the action on the ice and kind of generally talk about both the Wisconsin Valley and the Great Northern Conferences. And let's start with the Valley. Let's talk about Wausau West first, because they started off with their tournament in Eau Claire, as they do every year, and then last night had the conference opener over the weekend. Knocked off Notre Dame Academy 5-4 in the semifinal. Had 5 different goal scorers in that game. Was able to hold off a late rally for the Tritons, and then in the championship round, knocked off the host school, Eau Claire Memorial, 4-0. And Owen Pergalski, a couple of goals. Julian Scalcucci, 38 saves. And then last night, 8-1, a game that we had here on 98.9 WXCO, beating the Marshfield Tigers. And I actually mentioned to Travis last night that it's been a while since West has gone over to Eau Claire and able to win that tournament, so that's always a wonderful way to start the year off, just in terms of competition, and then you add a little icing on the cake by winning the tournament. That's a wonderful start.
There's something about first-year head coaches going over there and winning, because I think the last time that they won was my first year as a head coach.
Right?
Yeah, so it's you just needed a change over there to win that one again. But you know, for those guys to go over there and play against Notre Dame Academy, perennial top 5 team, Eau Claire Memorial, obviously tons of history there. To go over there and quite honestly, if you watch both games, the Notre Dame score ended tighter than I think the game was, and then controlled the Eau Claire Memorial game, scoring a couple goals there in the middle period to open it up a little bit. And it was I've watched I've watched a lot of it. I watched it live. It was fun to see the kids play, and obviously to come back to the home opener, the Wisconsin Valley Conference opener, maybe start a little slower than he wanted, but able to ultimately put the foot on the gas and execute. I think they've got a strong leadership group, and I think they have some high goals for themselves throughout the season.
We'll talk plenty more Wausau West hockey with Travis Brown, the head coach, coming up in just a few minutes. Then you have Stevens Point, and Stevens Point. Again, they're starting all over again after going the entire regular season undefeated last year and then losing in that first round of the playoffs. They started off their conference campaign with a 12-0 win against East Merrill United. Grant Molsky, again, not surprising, lit the lamp 3 times. And I mean, just again, did what we expect. What are you hearing about Stevens Point? What's your sense? I think we talked a little bit about, the going all the way up that mountain, and then it's sort of like a game show. It's like I remember the old game show Press Your Luck when I was a kid. You'd get up $30,000 and you'd hit a whammy, you'd go down to 0, and have to start all over again. That's, I think, Triple Falls was the whammy for Stevens Point last year. What are you hearing about Stevens Point? What do you expect?
Well, I mean, I think when you look at what they achieved a year ago and certainly the goal output they've put up so far, I think 26 goals, averaging 13 goals a game. Obviously, they can put the puck in the net, and I think that's what they're one of their greatest strengths. I mean, you look at Grant Molsky, you look at Grady Miller. Those are guys that have played varsity hockey for 4 years and understand what it takes to compete at that level. And Jerome Poirier was a guy that was able to transition from forward to D and has transitioned smoothly to there. Logan Ostricki, I mean, those are guys that have played a lot of hockey at that level and been able to compete. And, you look at where they were at a year ago, everyone was shocked. I mean, there wasn't a person in the state that wasn't shocked when Chippewa Falls went and beat them in the section.
I said it was the biggest upset I've seen in all the years I've been covering high school sports. I mean, it was by the biggest surprise when I saw that score. When I was getting the score during the night, it was like because I had a friend who was doing the game for Stevens Point. He sent me notes and said, "This is unbelievable."
and it was unbelievable. And I think as somebody who knew you were going to have to go through them to get to the place you want to get to. It was super surprising for what they had achieved in the regular season, but I think for them they've got some old, some young, some new, and experienced kids as well that they've had success. They've played together a lot through youth hockey and have had a lot of success there. So, I think for them they're going to have it'll be a different look for them this year, but I think they'll certainly be a super competitive team and probably have some pretty high goals for themselves as well.
Is it surprising that we don't see a lot of other teams playing a lot? I mean, EMU got one of their 2 games in over at Sparta this weekend. They were supposed to play twice, but then I think the weather must have postponed the second one. They lost 7-4 to Toma Sparta on Friday. Interesting. We talked last week. They had a 2-goal lead in their season opener against Antigo, and they let that slip away. And they had a 2-goal lead again. They let that slip away. And then, of course, and I misspoke earlier. I said 12-0. It was actually 14-0. That Stevens Point won last night.
Okay.
I made a mistake there. I put the wrong on the sheet here. But EMU played, but not a lot of other teams played in the run-up here to the start of the conference. Are you surprised at that at all?
I was a little surprised there wasn't different conference games matchups last night. I know ours got moved. The West one got moved because of
don't want to play 3-3.
Yeah, they didn't want to play 3-3, so we were able to move that. So that was nice that West got that move. But yeah, a little surprising. Some teams, like we were talking earlier, like some of the teams sprint early and then take a little break, and some kind of build throughout the season here. And look at a team like DC Everest, they haven't played in a little bit. Rapids was able to play a little bit over the holiday weekend and keep their schedule going. And East Merrill they would have had those 2 games. I think you're right. Weather got in there on them, and they weren't able to play that second one and then open up with Spash. So it's interesting as the coaches set up their schedules and how they feel about their teams and what they need to do early on. And it's been good hockey. It's been kind of crazy watching the scores throughout the state to try to pick out who are the top teams, who are the top teams in our area, who are the top teams throughout the state.
Let's look ahead for the next week, and it's not going to be a quiet weekend because you got everybody heading out of town. You got West playing at Waukesha Friday, and then USM Saturday. You got Everest playing at Marquette on Friday, and then Waukesha on Saturday. And even EMU's getting into the mix this year. They're going to Cedarburg on Friday, and they'll be at Marquette on Saturday. before we talk about the next round of conference games. But I mean, these teams, a lot of bus miles this weekend.
Well, I tell you, there's a lot of the bus companies are happy because they're all going to Milwaukee this weekend. So it's a nice little series. Part of that too is the overnight. I think that's a big part of it, is to some of the team bonding, but to go down to the Milwaukee area, teams that you're not normally going to play. I mean, we've had the Milwaukee series forever at Wausau West, and it's nice to see other teams get down there and play different teams. Marquette playing both DC Everest and East Merrill. You've got Waukesha playing us and DC Everest, and then U School and Cedarburg as the other options down there. But there's plenty of options down there too. I mean, you look at Arrowhead, the success they've had over the past few years. So it'll be fun little weekend to follow the scores.
And then there's another major non-conference game Saturday at the KB Willett, where Stevens Point will take on Notre Dame Academy. I guess you can talk about that matchup specifically, but also generally for the conference. Is it important for the conference to show well in these kind of games?
I think it is. I mean, when you look at Notre Dame plays Edgewood on Friday at home, I believe. I was talking to Coach Skajinski today, and he's excited about the opportunity to play those teams back to back. But for our conference, it's fun to play those games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want to play those games against perennial powers in our state, and quite frankly, you're rooting for your conference anytime you're playing non a conference. It would be great for the Valley to go down to Milwaukee and go 6-0 this weekend,
right,
and be able to have a little bit of conference pride down there.
And then back into the league next Tuesday, you got DC Everest at Marshfield. You have Wisconsin Rapids at EMU at the Smith Center in Merrill, and you got Wausau West at Stevens Point. Early in the season, and I'm sure we'll ask the coach about his thoughts, but you've been through this so many times. Having this game so early, what does that mean?
I think you'll rely a little bit on experience. Both teams will rely on that. Guys that have played in this game before. It's going to be, you think about going down to the Willett and the environment that it's going to be down there. It's going to be, West students usually travel well that night. Stevens Point will be well prepared with their student section, and it's a big game in the community. So that place will be packed and create an environment. It'll be a lot about who controls emotions and who can execute the basics early on in the season. I mean, we're so young into this season. To have this matchup is going to be interesting to watch. The way the two coaches navigate the game, the line changes. This is one thing that you don't in other sports, like when you're on the road, you have to change first.
Mm-hmm.
So Coach Brown's gonna have to put his line matchup up, and it'll be always interesting to see who the other coach matches up to, because they get the second line change. So it's a little bit of gamesmanship between the coaches going on there to figure that out. But sometimes as a coach, it was easier to be on the road, because you're like, nope, I'm going with who I'm going with, and whoever they put us out with, our guys are ready for it. So it'll be a fun Wisconsin Valley Conference night with everybody playing that night, and obviously a lot of eyes on the Smash West game.
Let's talk about the Great Northern, and a team that actually has more relevance for the conference, for the Wisconsin Valley Conference teams, is Tomahawk, because of their success the last couple of years. They are now been moved up to Division I and put as part of the same bracket for the sectional. And so far, Tomahawk has come out pretty impressively. They played over at an event in Amory over the weekend and defeated Amory, who is, I believe they played at the state tournament last year, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So it was Tomahawk winning in Amory on Friday 4-2. And the thing about it was that the kind of the number that jumped out to me was 54-17 shots on net. I mean, Tomahawk put a lot of heat on in that game. And then they beat WSLLG. I was gonna quiz you on what those four schools were, but I put it on the sheet, so I was gonna take it off. Webster, Siren, Frederick, Luck, and Grantsburg. It was actually tied after 2, but then Tomahawk was able to come back and win. And then last night they went to Lakeland and won 8-1. Had a 72 shot night in terms of shots. Again, I take a little bit of a grain of salt real quickly when some of those numbers come up. But Jonah Dickens, a first period hat trick. Jet Riley's been lighting the lamp every game so far. Tomahawk, I guess again, they're moving into this Division I world. Looks like they have I was wondering, and I thought maybe they would take a little bit of a step back, but it looks like so far they're ready to get right back where they left off.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a ton of experience back. When you look at their roster, and Jonah Dickens, Rex Riley, Bo Stromberg, these are all seniors that have been through the probably the most successful 4 years that Tomahawks had at the high school level. They got Braden Lamer on D and Jake Albert, another young player that's been able to contribute for a lot of years, and obviously you get the Rileys in there, and they're just, you know, they're a really experienced team. And when you look at, think about this, Chad, a lot of these guys are coming off of football still. I mean, they didn't have a ton of time to practice. I think they lost on the Saturday before the, the Saturday or Friday before hockey season started. So there wasn't a time for them to recover physically.
What about a coach in this situation? I mean, talk about a lot on the plate. To coach football and hockey. I mean, those are two really heavy lifting sports for Dewey Riley to be the head man for.
Totally difficult. I don't know how Dewey does it, to be honest. I mean, he had about 48 hours to transition and process, ending the football season to, I have practice on Monday for hockey, so
the long season.
The long season. And it's probably, it'll be interesting to ask him to see how he handled that, because that's not only the emotion side of it, but a lot of the guys that you just had on the football field are going to be having to turn the switch on for hockey and press the button play on that, because there's two physically demanding sports back to back. But yeah, Tomahawk, I mean, when you look at their roster, they're certainly going to compete well. It'll be interesting to see their game schedule and how that plays out within the section, just because of, this all comes out after you've built your schedule and you're trying to get some sectional games, because ultimately hockey is one of the few sports yet that we do in-person coach seating. And I hope it always stays that way, because I feel like the coaches get it right. But it'll be interesting to watch their season as they go.
Another two teams I kind of want to touch on, especially when it comes to the GNC. Number one, Mosinee. You've been through this a few times over the years, where you put a lot of shots on goal, and sometimes it's hard to get it to the back of the net. And last night in Mosinee, Anago and their goaltender, Austin Martinson, was a brick wall. Out of the first 61 shots he saw, 60 saves, but number 62 went to the back of the net for Mosinee. An overtime goal for Tyler Bars to win it 2-1 in OT, 62-17 edge and shots for Mosinee. And another team is Northern Pines. They have, of course, they got the great tradition of high school hockey. They like to call it the high school hockey capital, or the hockey capital of Wisconsin, up there in Eagle River. And they got off to a 14-1 conference win, season opening win against Rhinelander last night. What about those two schools? Are they going to be able to compete with Tomahawk at the top of that league?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you mentioned Anago, and I just looked up stats quick for Austin Martinson, because they've played a few games. I mean, Anago right now is sitting at 2-1, and Austin Martinson's sitting with a .947 save percentage.
Yeah,
and
33 out of 34 against Shawamigan the previous game.
Right. So you look at, I think Anago might surprise some people in there, just because goalies can steal games.
Yes.
I mean, that's the reality of it. But when you look at Mosinee, Tyler Bars coming back, somebody that was super important to their success a year ago. He got the game winner in overtime. Really nice slick play, shot up over the top of the goalie, hit the really nice goal.
When a goalie's making all the saves, kind of shot you have to hit. Huh?
Yeah, you had. I mean, it was just an outstanding high school hockey shot, and he was able to win it for him in overtime and celebrate with his teammates. And Mosinee's got a good young group that have played together a lot. I mean, freshman Evan Gwitt got his first varsity goal against Anago there on the power play. Just they're a team that probably is going to get better as the year goes on, as some of these young guys get experience. Northern Pines, I think, is really similar. Northern Pines has a ton of experience coming back from teams that maybe haven't been as successful as they wanted to, but these guys now have experience. They've got the goaltending. Everett Leslie back there is playing really well and has a ton of experience, both on the Tier 1 side as being with Team Wisconsin, and they've got some good firepower on the front end. The game wasn't wide open early on. The goalie from Rhinelander was making a few saves, and then Mosinee was able to get them to move, and the snowball kept rolling downhill.
And the thing about Pines is, we talk early in the season, they have Mosinee at home tomorrow night, and then they travel to Tomahawk on Tuesday night. So you're going to find out a conference championship could, almost be out of reach the first week of the conference season.
Well, and the Great Northern Conference does a conference
yeah.
tournament at the end of the year. So the double round robin doesn't take
Others
place.
like it. I do not like it.
I mean, we talked about it at one point in the Wisconsin Valley, and it was a lot of work on the scheduling side that people didn't really want to do. And
you don't want to lose. I mean, frankly, again, I'm going to jump in here and just make my case. I don't want to lose a Northern Pines Tomahawk game in the regular season at the site where you get, these rivalry kind of games, these big games where people come. You don't want to cut that in half to have this, I mean, sometimes the tournament can do that in a sense, but I just like the regular season home and home, and that's.
I do too. I mean, we look at when you have two big matchups, and like it'd be like West and Spash this year playing one game, and it's at Stevens Point
in early December.
In early December, and that dictates the seed for the tournament and all that. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it personally. It's obviously worked for the Great Northern, and they've gone through it. But yeah, I mean, that's a heck of a schedule for Pines coming up to have those matchups, because it's going to determine a lot for a lot of reasons. Chad, this is essentially their section.
I know the Great Northern's always that
for their state tournament run. So these games are super meaningful.
Absolutely. So and Tomahawk moving out. I mean, you got to know that teams like Mosinee and Pines see that. It's like. Our road is sort of like Stevens Point getting knocked out of the bracket. All of a sudden, things open up a little bit, don't they?
Well, and then the game against Tomahawk, how you play against Tomahawk, super important, because when you beat each other up 1-1, or you can say, well, we beat Tomahawk, or we played a great game against Tomahawk, or whatever you want to use to defend where you live. So Tomahawk, while they won't be in that section, will probably have a big influence on the seeding in that section.
Girls hockey, and we call it the Wisconsin Valley Conference here because that's where the Central Wisconsin Storm are. And I saw them in their opener, that 2-1 game against the Lakeshore Lightning. They've won 3 in a row. I tell you, it looks like it's going to be one of those years where I think everyone behind the bench will be losing a little hair, and a little bit of brown hair goes to gray hair, because it's been a lot of tight games. In the Gobbler Cup, the Storm defeated University School Milwaukee 3-1. Maisie DePoit, Emma Brandt, and Matea DePoit had goals. Taylor Simonson, 34 saves. And then in the championship round, 1-0. Cammie Floor, 36 saves against Eau Claire Area Stars. Jaden Yurkovsky, a shorty in the third to win the game, to win the championship. And then last night you saw the Storm again against Wisconsin Valley Union. As you said, Valley Union had not played, but they battled, and it was a 2-0 game. The Storm won it. Again, Taylor Simonson, 25 saves. Both these goaltenders are playing top this. And Emma Brandt and Ava Whitmore had goals for the Storm. So, I mean, old-fashioned tight hockey there for the Storm in the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, they should get used to those. What's not on the stat line for that game winner against Eau Claire Area was Jaden Yurkovsky blocked a shot right before that, and she was rewarded with a breakaway. And probably 4 minutes in the game before that, she had a breakaway, and the puck rolled on her just a little bit and missed the net. So she came back down, made a little forehand backhand, was able to slide it past the Eau Claire goaltender. I think with the Storm, there's going to be some growth that's going to happen. As oftentimes when you watch them, there's 4 freshmen on the ice, and I think those kids are going to have to grow up real fast to figure out what varsity hockey looks like. And I'm sure for Coach Wimmer and her staff, there's going to be some stressful moments, some frustrations, but with that growth, it's an investment for these kids to play well, and for them to come out of this little stretch here. They're probably a couple bounces away from being 4-0 after that Lakeshore game. But I think, when you watch them play, they're going to have tight games. They've got to learn how to finish on the offensive end, and they're going to lean on their experience behind, on the back end with Cammie and Taylor. Those two goalies have played a ton. And
it's also a fact, a little different is so often you see these goaltenders for the Storm get the shutouts, but 12 shots, 13 shots. They gave up more than 30 shots in the first 3 games, and then 25 last night. So these goaltenders, it's not going to be one of those cases where they're hanging out for much of the night. They're being asked to step up big time, and again, it's just amazing how well both of them have played in the first 4 games.
And that's what's nice is when you're a coach and you have 2 kids competing with each other. I think there's
The old adage for goalies is, you want the crease.
There's only one net. It's not like the defenseman where you're playing 5 or 6, or forwards where you're playing 9 to 12 forwards. There's one net for the goalies, and they've got to compete for it. And both of them have played really well here early on. I mean, even the Lakeshore game, a 2-1 loss Cammie played outstanding in that game. So, for them to be where they're at is good. I mean, for Wisconsin Valley Union, they had moments last night where they controlled the play, where they were able to keep the puck in the offensive zone. And part of that is learning for the young kids on how to manage the game, and it'll be fun to watch. Wisconsin Valley Union will be much better the second time they play us, and it'll be a good matchup. The conference aspect of this is going to be interesting to watch as you follow the Storm throughout the season between Black River Falls and Northland Pines and Medford and the Valley Union. So you've got a conference, you got something to play for.
And the Storm's next game will be Tuesday at Marathon Park, taking on Northern Pines in another conference game. So that's a look at what's been going on in high school hockey here this week, and looking ahead to next week. And coming up next, we'll have our coach guest for this week, and continue talking some hockey. We'll have the new head coach of the Wausau West Warriors, Travis Brown. He'll be with us in a minute as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Along with BJ Brandt, I'm Chad Holmes. Again, coming up in the second hour, our student athlete guest for this week from Marathon High School, senior girls basketball and softball standout Miley Halke. She'll be with us starting at 7:06. But right now it's time for our coach guest for this week, and we are joined by the former and the current coach of the Wausau West hockey team. And Travis Brown, thanks for coming on by.
Thanks, Chad. I really appreciate it. Excited to be here.
And we talked a little bit last night in our pregame interview about taking over the job. And for folks who may not be as familiar as those of us around the table about your background, I mean, if you pricked your arm, it would probably be blue blood or gold blood, because you've been around Wausau West and your family's been around Wausau West for such a long time. Can you maybe just give, a sense of where you've been to get to this point as the head coach at Wausau West?
Like I said, Chad, last night, I love this program. I was the little kid running around the rink with my dad coaching under Pete Susans for a number of years. It's been
26?
26, I believe is the number. But I was the kid on the bus rides going down to the state tournament. BJ probably remembers me as a little 8-year-old on the bus, and I was bred into this program. Like you said, I think I do bleed the blue and gold, and it's super exciting for me to be a part of not only this rich history, but to continue kind of a family legacy that is ingrained in this Warrior hockey program.
BJ, what's the first hard question you're going to give them?
My first hard question is, what surprised you so far? Like, you guys have been able to play some games. What's been the most surprising part?
I think our energy on the bench and our excitement to play the game. I think when we come out of the locker room and we play hard, and that first line sets the tone in regards to just how we play the game. the energy's been there, and I think it's exciting. It sets us up for obviously a good shift after a second shift and a third shift, but to sustain that and outwork guys in the first period, like our stats and our shots and that in the first period have been successful. So our energy and our excitement, I think, is what has surprised me so far.
I think something else I may have mentioned last night. There's, as a new head coach coming in, there's different kind of challenges. One is a challenge to try to build a program that's really down and having a hard time getting players. And then there's another challenge where you have a lot of experience back. You have a team that made it to the state tournament, a program, because teams are never the same. You had a team last year that made it to the state tournament. You have a program with a lot of these kids that are back this year. I imagine that for you, it's got to be exceptionally exciting to be able to work with such a talented group of hockey players. I mean, as you said, we talked about it, whether it's your forward line that's so dynamic, and not just your first line, but you got multiple lines that are, we saw it last night, capable of lighting the lamp. You got some really experienced and I would say at times scary defensemen for people to have to deal with. And then you got, I think, perhaps, and again, I think I'm biased, but I think we may have the best goaltender in the state of Wisconsin. It's got to be exciting to work with really good hockey players to implement what you want to do on the ice.
Yeah, I talked about a little bit last night, Chad. Good hockey teams are led by a locker room and really good programs. It makes obviously the coach's job really easily when they have the pulse on that room and they can make the plays in the right times in the right moments. So quite honestly, it's the foundation has been laid and the standard is the standard when you play for Warrior hockey. So when we step on the ice that second week or that first week of November, it is Warrior hockey. And for me to be able to step into a role that has such rich history and to be mentored by BJ for so many years, stepping into it was pretty smooth.
Let me jump in one more quick, because you mentioned Warrior hockey. What does Warrior hockey mean to you? And I imagine that, maybe next to the guy who's also here, nobody else could probably speak to it as well as you when you look at the 50-plus years of Wausau West hockey. How would you encapsulate what Warrior hockey is?
Being a warrior every single day. And our school at Wausau West is an amazing environment for our kids, and for our kids to wear a hockey jersey around Wausau West and to have that jersey on them, it means something walking around those halls. So to be a Warrior hockey player, I think it's a legacy, and there's a lot of rich history. You look at our banner behind our bench, there's a lot of history there. And for our guys to know where our history from and where we came from, it's an amazing experience, an amazing program to be a part of. So being a Warrior is just playing the right game, or playing the game the right way when it's supposed to be made. So
you need to get to the printer, though.
Last
year's state is not on there yet.
That was was an error on my end.
Is that the AD or the coach?
No, that's definitely on me.
There was somebody reminded him, but I'm not. No, but to piggyback on that, Chad, when you think about the history of Warrior hockey, I mean, Travis and I were texting today with an alum and asking about some of our players and that. It's just the net that West hockey casts throughout our community, throughout our youth program, and through just the hockey community in general is pretty large. So it's kind of fun to connect Travis today with an alum who's at the next level, and he happens to be our leading scorer of all time, which Chad Zowan, and I know there's at least a couple guys eyeing his record that would love to sniff at it. But Trav, what for you this year, what's been the greatest challenge so far?
I think stepping into that, obviously coming from an assistant coach to a head coach, right? Being an assistant coach, you have a different relationship with these guys. You can be a little more lighthearted. Your role as an assistant coach is much different than obviously being the head guy. So as that transition from assistant to head coach, shifting those relationships, keeping them obviously still meaningful, but your voice is heard every single day. And as an assistant, you're not heard as much, but when they hear your voice and commanding that locker room and earning that respect that they want from you, and then in return, obviously, has been the biggest thing.
Kind of building on that, and we kind of touched on this off the air actually last night, is that you have to do things a little differently. I mean, as successful as BJ was behind the bench, as successful as Pete Susans was behind the bench, as successful as your father was behind the bench, you still have to bring your ideas and to just try to put everything the same way. That wouldn't work, would it?
No, I think, and you look at professional coaches that step into a new role, and they always talk about how you have to be you, and if you're not going to be you, the players will see it out, and they won't be real. It won't feel real. So, Coach Brandt and I certainly do have a little different styles, but at the same time, the expectation is still there. Like the pressure, it's a good pressure we talked about last night, but me bringing in just a little more tools in regards to our emotional stand and where we sit and how we, like, the skill is there in our program. The talent is there. The experience within the game and how long these guys have played varsity hockey is there. So we'll probably talk about it a little later, but the 6 inches between our ears is certainly a challenge for us so far this year, and being able to manage our highs and to manage our lows and keep our emotions at a level where we get our best from our guys is basically what we've really been focusing on this year.
Again, we're talking to Travis Brown, the head hockey coach at Wausau West High School, here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
So obviously big 3 games coming up here, Waukesha University School and some game in a point down south, or a place down south on Tuesday. What are you looking to get out of this weekend, and what are you looking forward to most about Tuesday?
Obviously, to this weekend, 2 non-conference games on the road. It's traditionally what Wausau West Hockey, we do travel early in our program. So to go down to Milwaukee and face Waukesha and U School, it's been a home and no home. Like we rotate every year, right? So they come on out to every year, and for us to go down there and just play competitive hockey is what we're looking for. Staying disciplined, staying out of the box, those types of things are certainly a challenge we've seen within these first 3 games. When you look at Waukesha, they've played 3 games but only 2 opponents. They've doubled up on Brookfield a little bit, so they split within that program. So Waukesha is 2-1 at the time right now, and then when you look at University School, they're 3-0. So they're programs that have a lot of rich history. Wausau West has had their bouts with University School, and me personally, that one always means a little more for me. But when we go down there, we're looking to make competitive, good hockey and come home healthy.
Real quickly before you talk about Stevens Point, you got to talk about U School, because I said this on the air last night. It's like, for whatever reason, man, U School is such a pain in the neck. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're an undefeated team. It doesn't matter if they're kind of building. They always seem to be just tough for Wausau West. And do you have any magic elixir you're going to try to use on Saturday to kind of change that around?
No. I mean, I think we're still in a part of the season where it is still about us. Yes, we're going to play some talented teams coming up here. This next 3 games is obviously really important within our season, but continuing to be us and understanding what we're really good at and giving our best every day, and that doesn't change when we're on the road or when we're at home. So when we make the trip, make sure the boys are ready coming off the bus, and we'll hope to put 2 good games together.
What about Stevens Point? I mean, how good is that team and that program right now? Because boy, in recent years, they have, I mean, you hate to say it, but they have been the class of the Wisconsin Valley Conference for a handful of years. And is it another SPASH team that is basically along that same line?
It is. I mean,
darn.
They are a really good hockey team, and led by Grady Miller and Grant Molsky. They're a team that, like Coach Brand had said, that they play a lot of varsity hockey, and the Warriors haven't had their number recently, and we've had I think about when we talk about SPASH and we think about what we're going to play and or how we're going to play the game. A couple years ago, and at our team overnight, we had an alumni panel come back, and it was a lot of guys from my area, Mitch Borneman, and my brother was there, and it was just a questionnaire panel where the alumni were just answering questions from our guys, and one of the questions from one of our juniors at the time was how do you beat SPASH? And their response was just an attitude, going into that game believing and thinking this is our game, and believing in your teammates and understanding that they're going to make the right play when they need to, and trusting them. And it was just an attitude. And when we played them in the scrimmage, quite honestly, we played them really tough. And yes, it was a scrimmage game, and it was a 25-minute run game where we scored 2 goals and they didn't score any. But winning that period was belief in that program. And after that period, I came in the locker room and, guys, you can do this. The how do you beat Spash narrative is not there. This is a team that has a lot of experience and is ready to make that step. And the game on Tuesday is going to be a really fun one.
Yeah, I think when you look at the games throughout the state, I mean, you certainly have built a schedule this year where you're going to test yourself throughout both inside and outside the conference. When you look at Spash, we talk a lot about Spash, but I'm looking at university schools, stats here. You'll love who their goalie coach is here, Coach Brown, Brian Botcher, who is part of that group that,
you stole one?
He had 45 saves.
Stole one.
Yeah, he stole one down at the state.
We ran out of time.
We ran out of time.
That's what it was. We ran out of time.
When you look at the university school matchup, what do you, that's obviously going to be a high octane game in a cold ice arena. What are you hoping to see from your guys in that one?
I think obviously, when you think of university school,
I think of Hogwarts.
Yeah. When you pull in there, it's definitely Hogwarts. And whenever they travel in their suits and their nice ties. But certainly a team by Everett, led by Everett and Davey and Tyler, like it's a rich history program, and I look forward to our guys playing a good 51 minutes. We haven't had that within our first 3 games here. There were moments at times where we have seen really good hockey, and then there were times where we lost our the 6 inches between our ears a little bit. So putting together a full game in 51 minutes, executing in all 3 phases of our game, and understanding that yes, this is a good big game, but it's a game that we're looking just to get better, and understanding the expectation is to get the W, but know that every step forward, every game, every opportunity, when you step on the ice, it's an opportunity to get better. So we're looking to do that this weekend.
How important are special teams? I know the answer to this, Travis, because we've been together for so long. But for the people that are listening, because the other side of this show is a sport I don't know that well, is basketball, and they don't deal with power plays where you have one less person. It's a foul and you get to the free throw line. So that's kind of their version of the power play.
Could make it a more interesting game if you had to
it definitely would. How important is that, and how important has it been so far in your first 3 games, and what are you looking to get out of special teams over the next 3?
Well, certainly we've practiced our PK quite often here. Right now we're killing at 88%. So that from a percentage standpoint, that's really good. And in regards to the power play, you're looking for guys to make the right play and be connected as a unit of 5. When we break the puck out, we're connected. When we transition to neutral ice, you're making 2 or 3 passes, getting entry, and then you're setting up your power play. When we're a team that if we get frustrated, we don't make plays. We grip the stick too tight. We get frustrated with our teammates. So when we talk about special teams, it's an area of the game where there's a little more excitement, especially on the power play, where it's defense is obviously there's guys that do really well with that, but statistically there's not a lot that shows or that they can build when you play the defensive game. When you score on goals and you're having fun and you're playing the offense, there's a lot of statistics there, and it's meaningful for our guys and for us to be really strong on the power play, on entry, and setting up our sets. It's important, and it's part of the game that you need to work on. You need to practice. We talk about if you think about percentages and 5-on-5 play is most of our game, but when you go on the kill or when you go on the power play, it's not a piece of the game that you got to forget about. You got to practice it. You got to rep it, and you got to make sure that everybody on that ice is connected. And if you do that, you zip that puck around. We scored a goal on Saturday that I think we made 4 passes in a row, and the puck ended up in the back of the net, and that was a cool highlight goal.
Let's talk about that word connected, because let's talk about the guys now. Because last night was watching Krastopoid and Pergalski, and it's like, one has 3, one has 2, one has 1, and I'm thinking that any particular night, any of those guys could be hat trick goal scorers, but being connected. And when you have that much talent on one line, sometimes that can be the hardest part, because they probably all think, hey, I should be getting 3 goals or 4 goals. But man, I mean, what a loaded line. And it's not just that. I thought your number 2 line really came out there and really put a lot of energy and a lot of electricity out there as well. But it is really about these lines being connected, even beyond the great talent that they have.
Yeah, I've preached all year. Our season theme this year is together. And everything we're gonna do, we're gonna do it together. And when we're on the ice, when we're off the ice, it's about us. And I think that they've really stepped up to that challenge. Our guys have. There hasn't been a lot of frustration coming back to the ice or coming back to the bench. You're on the ice and a guy doesn't make a play, or it doesn't make a pass when you feel like he should have. You come back to the bench and you say, "Hey, did you hear me?" Or, "Hey, did you get me?" And if that answer is no, then the finger's a little pointed at myself, like, hey, I need to be better in that moment. So that has been a little bit of, not a surprise, but certainly a shift in the way these guys are connected. I mean, our top line, Chase, Coop, and Owen, they played a lot of hockey together. And the goal, obviously, is for them to be super connected and not taking a step backwards as we progress throughout the season here. But when you look at our second line of Hendricks, Xander, and Tyler Wendell, 3 seniors who have also played a lot of hockey. And seniors scare teams. When you, late in the season, in January and February, when those seniors start to understand, like, hey, this is it. And when you are a connected group and you're trending in the right direction come January and February, you can be a scary hockey team.
I mean, if you look at your stats right now, you would. Everything lends to that. I mean, right now, Owen Pergalski has 10 points, and the next 7 guys here, 8 guys are all seniors. Those are, when you talk about the success of a team, you're talking a lot about your senior class. And sometimes, like, Coach Brown doesn't want to hear this, but in the 2011 championship team doesn't win if the 2010 team doesn't lose, and that's the reality of when you're dealing with kids and growth and maturity. Sometimes you have to go through it, and the reality was winning it in 2011 allowed the 2012 group to get to where they got. Do
you agree with that?
I mean, my side of the story is, if you've ever seen Friday Night Lights, the 2011 class was the movie and the 11 was the credits. So that's always my take on that. But you're exactly right. The learning experience that these guys went through last year, they know it, they feel it, and they want to overcome it.
Let's go to the blue line. As I said, I mean, you got big kids back there. I mean, you talk about classic look defensively. You got some kids that, some forwards probably going to go there and say, oh, boy. Talk about your defensemen.
It's a big group.
It is a big group.
And a couple of them were very successful in the fall season as a football player, and hockey's a little different, and when they bring the game of football into hockey, I get a little frustrated with them, but I want them to be themselves. Mm-hmm. You can't take their attitudes and their moxie and not think that that intimidation factor or how they present themselves doesn't affect the other team, because it really does. Now, gearing that emotion and gearing that moxie and that attitude in the right direction is what we're working towards. So it's a high stature group. They're physical, they're strong, but understanding when to make that play, when to make the big hit, when to take the puck is certainly a learning experience for them. And they're ready. They know that even in our first 3 games here, there's been a little shift in that. So I'm hoping that continues for their brains to understand when to take their moments, and hopefully it'll keep going.
I mean, I think it's the tallest group that Wausau West has ever had on the back end. Finn Richards, he's 6'1", 6'2", Shea Jones, 6'2", 6'3", Ian Jackson, 6'4". When he's on skates, he's got to look like 7 foot. Yeah. Tegan Rasmus, 6'2", Joe Gravine, 6'2", Zach Gruen's big and tall, and then you look at you're working in Emmett there. I mean, what the physical side of the game is so important for these defensemen. How do you manage that? You talked about when to get the puck, when to take the man. It certainly seems like we've got the take the man part down. How do you manage that part for them to understand that, especially as you go to the second round of the season and in the conference and they're playing, like, these guys know how hard some of these guys are going to hit people. And at what point do you say, hey, you've already established that he doesn't want to get hit by you, just go take the puck?
Yeah. I think when you got these guys that are so big, obviously what comes with that is a long stick, and utilizing and mastering that skill of getting sticks on pucks. It can be your first play there. And then and if you don't get that stick on puck, or if you don't make a play on the puck there, then that physicality can come into play. But the old adage that Coach Susans would always say is, can't miss the man and the puck. And so when understanding that, you can't miss both. So knowing when to make a play, knowing when to use your stick, that's and it also starts with obviously good gap through neutral ice. Like we worked on it today. Our gap throughout these first 3 games hasn't been where we want it to be. So getting deeper into the offensive zone, setting that gap early as they exit or break out of their zone, and you can shut plays down early in the neutral ice. You can make that transition. You go play the more fun part of the game, as the guys like to say.
We got 3 minutes to go, and we got to talk at least briefly about your goaltender, Julian Scalcucci, and then maybe get one more final question. But talk a little bit about what this young man has been able to accomplish since coming on as a freshman and being such a big game goaltender for your team.
Well, you talk about experience and learning from those experiences. Like, Julian has been a guy in the front of our net for some time, and every opportunity that he gets, he's a sponge. He remembers every play. He remembers every shot. He the way he thinks the game, the way he scouts his opponents. He knows his opponent's tendencies, and all of those are obviously in favor of him being able to make the first save. And he's our rock back there. When he's seeing the puck and when he's making strong plays and he's corralling his rebounds, when there's not second chance opportunities, you know that he's on. And he's a leader back there. Guys respect him, and he's a vocal leader that D-core they need to be a trusted group. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Julian to keep soaring in that right direction.
Final question.
Well, no, that's a lot of pressure, Chad. I think when you look at this group,
I
Trav,
know we could have another half hour. But we'll bring you later in the season. You know.
When you look at this group, what are you most proud of so far, and what are you looking forward to seeing them do?
I'm most proud of the way that their relationships with each other have improved. I think a lot of times last year there was a lot of frustration with each other, and in the way just the immediate frustration. Like, it was quick. It didn't carry or linger when you came off the ice, but it was just a little edge to them. And now when they're coming off the ice, because they've had that experience, they've played so much hockey, they're talking hockey and they're talking through what they were seeing. Because what a guy's seeing with the puck or without the puck could be completely different of what you thought he saw. And there might be a reason where he did make a play or where he didn't make a play. And, hey, this is where I was at in that moment. And my hope is that they continue to talk to each other. We're a team that when we keep talking to each other, we build each other up, we're dangerous. We're building our teammates up, and we're excited. We're celebrating little things. It's a fun bench to be a part of, and we look forward to keep making a run here.
3 games coming up in the next week. All 3 will be broadcast right here live on 98.9 WXCO. I'm looking forward to going on the bus and hanging out with you guys over the weekend.
Absolutely.
Should be a lot of fun in Waukesha and USM, and then, of course, looking forward to going to Stevens Point and having a voice this year. I didn't have a voice last year when I was at Stevens Point, so you can have a voice, and I hope you can make me use it. But Travis Brown, hey, congrats on the great start. We'll get you back late in the season to see how this train keeps rolling. But thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much, Chad.
We'll talk to Miley Halke from Marathon High School coming up. Our student athlete guest coming up next after the news here on WXCO. And welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With former Wausau West High School head hockey coach B.J. Brandt, I'm Chad Holmes. And now in hour number 2, we're going to focus on basketball and teach the coach a few things here as we continue. And we always start off our second hour with the student-athlete guest and somebody who has been with us before and very happy to welcome back Miley Halke from the Marathon Red Raiders, both in high school girls basketball and softball. And I'm trying to remember, is there a third sport as well?
I did play volleyball. I wasn't able to this year, though.
I was wondering about that. So,
Yeah.
But again, Miley, glad you could make it over, and thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
We were just talking off the air, and last night you had a game at Assumption, and Assumption has been such a powerhouse in central Wisconsin basketball, state of Wisconsin basketball in recent years. And your team battled on the road and came up a little short, so you're now 2-1 on the season. The first question I want to ask is, because you've been with us before,
Yeah.
and you started as such a young player, and now you're up to your senior year. It has been a gradual climb. There's been a lot of, I think, bumps and bruises to get where this girls' basketball program is. Do you feel like the program is now at a spot where you can be competitive near the top of the Marywood Conference South?
I really do believe so. Our sophomore year is rough. My freshman year, we had a pretty much all senior team. And then my sophomore year, we jumped in, and Emma Love and I were the only returning players. And sophomore year was rough. We're trying to rebuild the program, and we got through it. And my junior year, we had a lot of seniors, so they had experience. But this year, we have a lot. The people that were brought up as a freshman my sophomore year are now the starters, and I feel like we have all been in the same spot where we all started really young and had to work that. And I feel like just in general, our connection with each other through all of that has made us really strong. And I feel like as games go on and as practices go on, more is just going to click, and that we're going to be a better team from what we are now to later.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about what you do in the off season to prepare for this basketball season and obviously the softball season coming up here.
As much we get in a lot of tournaments. I play AAU too. With Emma Love and Kate Love, I play with them, and just trying to get in the gym as much as you can. Like this summer I had an injury, so I wasn't able to. That was a major setback. But as soon as I was cleared, I knew that like if we want to be better this year, that means every person individually needs to put in the time, and I wasn't going to let my injuries stop me from getting into the gym and taking the time to do as much as I can with whatever time off I had, as much time left I still have playing the sport.
I think a lot of folks who don't have a family member that is involved in AAU probably don't know basically what it is. Could you talk about what AAU basketball is and maybe how it's different than what you do during the high school basketball season?
It's a lot more like street ball, if I have to be honest. It's a very good competition. A bunch of girls every girl that's there really loves the sport and really wants to be better. But it just it's not as strict on the fouling. It's more physical. It's just, you're not going to get every call going your way. You're not going to get many calls, and you just got to learn how to play through it, which helps with aggressiveness in a school play game. Is that like if you're used to being pushed around in AAU, then you can make a and one in a game because you're going to get the foul call then. So
I want to ask one more question about AAU because it kind of intrigues me a little because again, most of my life is around the high school game. Mm-hmm. And again, tell me if I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. Is there a sense that maybe the whole idea of the summer league is more about individual accomplishments more than team accomplishments, or is it truly team in this, or is it different in terms of? I think high school, it's about the team success, and the individuals do have their success within it. Sometimes it feels as though, again, from the outside looking in, that maybe it's about trying to showcase yourself, maybe to colleges, and there's a little bit less of the team aspect. Would that be fair to say?
For AAU, I feel like definitely AAU, a lot of the people that are in it are looking to play at the next level, and there's definitely even like summer tournaments that we've gone to as marathon, but mainly AAU are showcase tournaments. There's scouts there from a bunch of UW private schools, like everywhere, and they're looking to see. That's mainly where they look to see. So there is an aspect where it's like, hey, you're kind of sell yourself a little bit when you're playing those games. But I just think it's a really good opportunity to play more and also just be able to play more basketball and play aggressive basketball, so then you know how to deal with it in a real school game.
So I noticed you've got I'm just looking at the roster and bound here, and I see a C next to your name. And as somebody who like the hockey players wear the C on their jerseys, what does it mean to be a captain, and what does it mean to be a leader for your team, and how much influence, and do you think about it at times, the influence you have on the kids watching you play on a Tuesday or Friday night?
Well, I not even from the girls that I play with, but also just people in the stands. Like, I take it as a main role that I feel like it's important for me to be able to go to anyone and like I feel like I have to be very observant of my teammates and be like, if I see that there's a girl who's struggling, I have to be the one that has to come up to her and like I'll be the one that needs to give further direction, or I need to be the one to be like, don't worry about it. Like, not like that's everyone's role, because if you're on a team, you have to have some leadership. But as a captain, I just feel like they have some. It's kind of just like it's a status name almost, but I feel like it just kind of gives me like I have initiative to do this, so I'm gonna do what I can with it. Just like I just want to be able to. I want to be someone that they can look up to, so when they're in my position, that they will be like, I want to do what Miley did for me when I needed it.
Again, we're talking to Miley Halke from the Marathon Red Raiders, senior for the Red Raider girls and basketball team and softball team here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Again, you've had a lot of opportunity at Marathon over the last number of years. How have you changed? Let's talk about basketball. What are the biggest changes for you as a basketball player since you first started playing varsity ball? Where are you maybe taking the biggest strides?
I mean, I talked about this last time a little bit, but my freshman year, I was strictly a post player. I did not play perimeter. In fact, like I was terrified of getting the ball in the perimeter. I'm like, if I don't have to dribble the ball, the best for me. But we switched our offenses around, and I've had to change, and now I play perimeter, and I'm more of kind of like a small power forward as well now, is that I can dribble drive. I can shoot perimeter shots, and sometimes I'm caught having to bring the ball up the court after a rebound. Like, my game has completely changed as the years have gone on, and it just made me a better player.
So being a multi-sport athlete, this will be kind of my question, Chad, because I think it's important for people to understand the I don't want to say pressure, the routines of students and student athletes right now. How do you balance the academic side along with the, obviously you're in the middle of a basketball season, knowing you've got a softball season coming. How do you balance that, and what are some things that you do to keep some balance in your life?
It's
Or do ya?
especially as a senior, it's difficult taking advanced classes, having to stay on top of it. But I do strictly school time is school time. Unless obviously I'm free, I'll watch film or whatever. But weekends then are kind of like the days where, like, let me go back. School time is school time, but as soon as that bell rings, then I'm thinking about what's next, whether that be practice or a game, and then that's where my mind is at. And I don't let anything else bother me from that. At practice, if I had a bad day at school, you just have to drop it. Like, you didn't do good on a test, well, now you're a basketball player. You just kind of, you got it, because you can't let it affect your game. But weekends, you just, you got to find an equal balance of both. You have to spend your time studying for a test. You have to complete your homework. But then, like, for us, we have Sunday practices. So, no, at 6 o'clock on Sunday, that's when you're clicking back into athlete mode, and you have to make sure you're on time and make sure you're in the gym. So
I'm not going to ask you which of those tests you are having trouble with, but let's talk about academics. And I know we've talked about this previously, but what is maybe your favorite topic or class at Marathon?
Right now I'm in advanced biology, and I really like that. So I've been planning on going into the medical field, so I've leaned more towards that.
Well, that begs the question as you look forward. I mean, you talk about going into the medical field. That's a big step. What are your plans after graduation?
Right now I'm planning on attending UW Eau Claire.
Yay.
I want to major in communication sciences and disorders, which long term will make me an audiologist, hopefully. So a lot of schooling, but I'm ready for it, and I'm really hoping that everything goes well and that I got all that.
Well, you've made a good decision already with that school.
I knew you'd be happy once I heard
Yeah,
that, Chad. You know, when you look at your 4-year career academically as an athlete, what do you think about it? Like, what sticks out as memorable moments for you?
I could probably pick out a game every single year where I'm like, this is the game that, I mean, my freshman year, we had a really good game when we played Amherst. It was a really close game, and I just remember we got a steal. There was like a minute left in the game. It was a close game. One of our seniors that year got a steal, and then we got a layup, and it was just nothing beats beating a team in a close game. Like when you're not supposed to win and you win, there's no better feeling than that. So I think that would sell it.
Let's talk about softball and basketball. The hard question always, and again, you know the coaches, I have their Coach Schneider and Coach Fred have their hands over their ears, so they will never hear this. But
right.
do you have a favorite between basketball and softball?
Basketball is my favorite. I know Mr. Fred is not going to be happy about that, and he's probably listening. But basketball is my favorite. There's hands down.
Let me kind of build on that. I'm going to ask you kind of a two-parter. What is it about basketball that maybe got you involved in it, makes you love it still? And what is it about softball that you really enjoy when you do get to the spring? Is there any particular aspect of each of the sports that kind of grabs a hold of you?
I feel like in basketball, I've really gained a lot of friendships from it. Some of my closest friends I've met through sports have been through basketball, whether that be from like all across Wisconsin, though, like it not even just from Marathon, but even from Marathon, I have some of my best friends that I play with. And not saying that softball, because Marathon's not a very big school, that I don't, but I just feel like basketball, I just feel really connected with everybody. And like it's kind of different. Is like basketball is such a team sport. Like softball is too, but like when you're in the batter's box, that's your game then. It's you against the pitcher. But like on basketball, it's like, yeah, you made a shot, but my teammate's over there keeping space so that I can make this shot. Or that my teammate just gave me a pass so that I can make this. And even like giving an assist to someone and they're coming back and they point at you. Like it just kind of like builds a relationship that is like, I know I can count on you and you can count on me. And I feel like basketball has always done that. And also just like the environment in the loud gym, like the adrenaline that it gives you. I love that.
So what is your favorite opponent to play against that brings it out in you or brings it out in your team? Who's your favorite opponent to play?
It's always good to beat the private schools. Like, it's nice to beat Newman
I just heard the can open up. The can of worms has just opened up.
It's really nice to beat the private schools, but then there's also the rivalry always of Marathon versus Edgar. So, any conference win really is a really nice win, but I think beating the private schools are probably the top.
There's that bulletin board material that we always look for, I tell you. Let's talk about your team. Because it's early in the season, I think just looking at your group, that there's a lot of potential for a very good season. In your opinion, what does your team do really well, and what does your team have to be better at in order to maybe check off some of those goals that you have here at the start of the season?
I feel like our defense has been very good. Especially like just being full court. I feel like we're starting to get more used to that because of the speed that we have, and like the more the more as the team has played together, we're just having better chemistry on the court to be able to just know where to go. And I feel like our chemistry together is really good, so that I don't have to I'm not wondering where my teammate is. I know because of who they are as a player.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely need to work a lot more this year, especially we've been getting in foul trouble. And the last 3 games, we've been in foul trouble. And our starting 5 is very strong, and we have the most experience, and we need to make sure that we can stay in the game. But also along with fouling is that our turnovers, it's going to cost us games if we can't get it under control, and that's just going to come over practicing harder and working on it more in practice, which we're going to get by the end of the season. It's early, but yeah.
Winter sports is such a long season.
Yeah.
It is long, and I think part of that too is when you look at your schedule here, you guys play a bunch of games in January. January is jam packed with games. How do you take care of yourself? How do your teammates take care of the team? And when you know you're going to have a ton of games in a short amount of time, what do you do to keep yourself healthy throughout the season?
Making sure you're getting enough sleep. There's times after practice I shower and I'm like, I'm going straight to bed. I'm going straight to bed.
I thought that was only old people.
Recently I've been taking Pedialyte. I need to stay hydrated. I don't drink enough water. But it just comes taking care of yourself, but also checking in on your teammates mentally, because it is a long season. There's going to be some, you don't ever really know. It's a long season. You never know what someone is going through, and if it's if they had a bad couple of last games, it's important for them to know that it's okay and that you're going to work and it's going to get better because you're the player that you are. So, yeah.
And you mentioned a couple of the names on your squad, the Love Girls. Who else are some of the girls that you're counting on as a leader on this team to take you to those next steps?
Definitely Macy Mishka and Maven Schneider. Both are other starting too. Macy is very quick. Yeah. She is very fast. She's really good on defense. I wouldn't want her guarding me. That's what I know for sure. And Maven's pretty smart. She knows what all of our plays and what we need to be doing.
Well, she'd better.
Yeah, yeah. But her and Kate are really good at the 3-point line too. They're probably our main shooters. So having them as a threat out there, and Emma and I and Macy on defense, and also Macy being able to drive, I feel like once we all play more in the season and it gets later in the season, it's just gonna click, and I feel like we could have a good run this year.
Well, that was part of my next word. What is success? What does success look like for you? And as an athlete, I know how the coach side of things, when you look at a long winter season, what is it like for you as you guys kind of chunk up your season into, whether it's 4 or 5 game chunks, and what does success look like for you throughout the year?
I just want every game for us to be we gave it everything we have. Whatever you had that day, it may have not, what you gave in that game may not have been your 100. You may have not been able to give your 100, but it's whatever you could give that day, as much as you could give. one of our core values as a team is that we need to compete every day at practice and at games. And I just want to end whenever our season ends this year. I want like that last game is that everyone is like, I gave everything I could, and I feel like that will be success, is for everyone to be like, we're on the same page. We all worked as hard as we could to get here.
Anything else before we ask the final question?
Yeah, I do, Chad. So coaching has been where we take the opportunity to try to teach life through sport. What are some life lessons you've learned throughout your career here at Marathon, whether it be through your volleyball experience, your basketball experience, or softball?
I've learned a lot about communication. Can't expect something to be done if you don't communicate it. I've also learned that you're going to go through rough times, and it's important to reach out to people and let those who care about you help you as much as you need to be there for other people. And just like, don't let a setback keep you back. That there's always something to look forward to and a different goal to meet, and it's important that you go and meet that.
All right. Well, no surprise here, because you know the drill. Our final question, and especially now as a senior, and you've had so many years of athletics to be able to learn. Based on what you've learned, what piece of advice do you give a freshman that's just joining either your basketball program or your softball program for them to think about as they start their journey that you're getting closer and closer to crossing the finish line on?
Well, as a senior, I'm going to say just there's going to be bad times, there's going to be really good times, but there's going to be a day where it's going to be your last game and you're going to be like, there's no way. So you got to appreciate the bad and the good, and you can't let the bad ruin the good. You have to always look at the good and be like, or look at the bad and be like, it may not be nice, like it doesn't gonna feel good right now, but later it's gonna work out and everything is gonna be okay. So just play every game like it's your last. That would be my main advice.
It's very good advice. And number one, congratulations on all the success you've had so far in your high school career. Best of luck as you go through the winter and then the spring.
Thank you.
Best of luck as you go to Eau Claire. That's
Thank
a
you.
wonderful place to go to. I'll tell you this much. But Miley Halke from Marathon High School, again, really appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a time out and then come back and talk about what's been going on in high school basketball coming up next. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. On Friday and Saturday, it's a road trip to southeast Wisconsin for the Wausau West High School hockey team. And you can hear all the action live on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. And on the Civic Media app. Friday night, the Warriors take on Waukesha. Pre-game coverage begins at 6:35 and the opening face-off at 7 p.m. Then on Saturday, the Warriors meet University School of Milwaukee. Pre-game starts at 2:06 and the opening face-off at 2:30. Wausau West High School Hockey on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by Sun Printing, the Clover Belt Credit Union, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Rocket Industrial, and the Wausau Business Show, the Wausau Cyclones, the Wausau West Hockey Booster Club, and Mike Whitmore Construction. It's Wausau West at Waukesha on Friday and the Warriors at University School of Milwaukee on Saturday. On your home for Wausau West High School Sports, 98.9 WXCO. And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, and also on YouTube at youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel. Quick reminder that if you've missed any of our previous broadcasts of the Big High School Sports Show, you can get them in various ways. You can go to Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, search Big High School Sports Show, and then subscribe and go back and listen to many years worth of these shows. So you can go back and see whether or not I'm getting any better at this. But you can do that. You can go to our website, go to WXCO.FM. Click on the shows at the top or programs. I forget what it's labeled as. It'll take you to the Civic Media site. Then highlight WXCO, and then go to the Big High School Sports Show there as well. I am Chad Holmes, along with BJ Brandt, and two really nice interviews again. I tell you, they make our jobs a lot easier when they come in and do such a wonderful job.
It is fun. It's always, to get a little window into what happens behind the athletic curtain sometimes, and I think it's really fun to get the coach perspective and to get the athlete perspective, because sometimes as a coach you don't always understand the lens the athlete's looking through, and tonight she did a great job of giving us what high school athletics is all about, and talking about her experience and the good and the bad. And I think what I got most out of Miley's interview was just about being a good teammate. Like, she didn't say those words, but you could tell that group cares about themselves and cares about each other, and you could sense that, which leads to a lot of team success.
And I gotta say, it's like I think Marathon's very fortunate with Jeff Schneider as their coach. I think he's been around such a long. I mean, he was at West before he went to Marathon more than 2 decades ago, and he just keeps on going. And he's, I think, just a wonderful leader of athletic teams. And I always like to say that. I've known him for a long time. So let's look at basketball. Let's start with the boys, and let's start off in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Some of these teams. Let's start with the big three that are around the closest to our studios here in Wausau. We got Wausau West, DC Everest, and Wausau East, and East and West hosted Thanksgiving weekend invites, I guess you call them, because they're not really tournaments, because it was not a tournament per se. But as you start off the season, I think you got 3 different ways of starting. You have Wausau West starting as well as you can. You got 3 wins in a row, looking very impressive, I think, over the weekend at their turkey shoot, and then going on the road, and not an easy trek to Prentice on a Tuesday night, being behind by 2 at halftime, and then coming back and winning 56-47. So 3-0 start for the Warriors. You got DC Everest, who started things off with a bit of a stub toe, losing to Superior 76-61 in their first game at Wausau East on Friday, then bounced back and really impressive over Eau Claire North, 87-65. And then last night they went east to Ashwaubenon and won 76-57. And then East, I think, is a program that is going to be in a little bit of a rebuilding stage. They lost so much incredible talent that helped them to the state tournament a year ago. And they had a bit of a rough start, losing to Eau Claire North 87-72 on Friday, and then losing on Saturday to Superior 80-52. So I guess we'll start with Wausau West. I know you had a chance to see them over the weekend. Really good start for Coach Lemons and his team.
Yeah, when you look at that group, I think there's a lot of skill and talent up and down that lineup. And I think, the nice thing is, as I watched them, through their their first 3 games, you didn't know which person was gonna light I say light the lamp because that's hockey, but put the ball in the hole. I mean, that's like, it was fun to watch because you didn't know which person was going to get hot. And obviously Jackson Riley put up 19 on the first night, and Matthew Heilman as a sophomore making an impact within that lineup. And you could tell they're a well-coached team. They're going to defend hard and look to make plays in transition, and they certainly did that with the 2 games that I was able to see that weekend.
DC Everest is a team that has some talent back. They got a new head coach, so it's going to take, I think, a little time because you implement maybe different styles on both ends of the court. But I think DC Everest is going to be a team that is one to keep an eye on this year, and sometimes, when you get a new coach, it gets you get new ideas and a chance to spark something. And it is a guy that's been around the block here in north central Wisconsin at Merrill. But for DC Everest, I thought, again, not surprised they may have lost that opener, but the last 2 games. And one thing that Everest seems to do every year, they score a lot of points. That seems to be a tradition over at DCE.
Yeah, I mean, to think about, they go on a midweek game over to Ashwaubenon and get almost a 20-point win over an Ashwaubenon team, and certainly against Eau Claire North to put up 87 points against Eau Claire North. They've got the ability to put the ball in the basket, and you make fun of me, and you have plenty of opportunity to make fun of me about not knowing basketball. But when you think about sports, the ability to defend sets up your ability to play offense. And as I've watched these basketball games over the past couple weeks here, that's exactly what I'm seeing, and how teams defend. It sets up their offense, and I think they're a team that probably, as with a new coach, will find their identity as the season goes on.
And I'm curious to see how Jake Shallow does there, because I think he's very highly regarded. Had some real good success with Merrill. Family Tree is a very successful one as well. So I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. And for Wausau East, it happens where, you get the wonderful aspect of having a wonderful, talented senior class, deep senior class, but when you lose a lot of players, it takes time to then build that next group. And even talented players will need a little time to move into new roles.
Yeah, I was going to say the new roles, when you talk about you lose a lot of experience, of varsity experience, but the guys that were behind them have the experience of watching them do it, and now it's their turn. Yeah. So when you look at the notes on the Eau Claire North game, obviously a little bit blindsided in the first half, but played an outstanding second half, and I think you'll probably see a little bit of that with them as the year goes on, and I'm sure coach is hoping for a little bit of consistency out of it. But part of it is you have to go through it, you have to experience it, and they're going to play a tough schedule that's going to prepare them for the playoffs.
A couple of teams that I think will be very much in the mix in the Valley and the boys' side is Marshfield and Stevens Point. And Marshfield, their record the last number of years, I think we said last week, 47-48 or something like that. They've won in the conference in their run, I think now 3 years in a row winning the conference championship. Last night they went to Appleton East and won 81-59. One of the players that's expected not only to be one of the most talented players in this area, but in the state of Wisconsin is Chris Pohl. He is a very athletic, tall kid who can do it inside and outside. Had 31 points, made it to the free throw line 13 times, made 13 free throws last night. He is going to be a handful for Marshfield, who just seems to have it going in terms of boys basketball. And then Stevens Point, they went to a ranked Bayport team on the road last night and played a tight one, losing 62-59. But in recent years, it has been Marshfield and Stevens Point kind of battling at the top of the Valley in boys basketball. And until we see, I think, maybe one of these teams like a Wausau West perhaps, or a DC Everest, I think those are the two that at least start on the pole position starting the season off.
Yeah, I think so. And when you have a dynamic player that Marshfield has, those are things that coaches have to prepare for, and as the season goes on, coaches are really smart and find different ways to defend those teams. But when you look at the conference, those two teams certainly stick out based on the history of it, and I feel like there's a couple teams knocking on the doorstep there to try to take over those spots, and part of that is going to be as they go through the conference and how they use the non-conference to prepare themselves to play the in-conference opponents. And I think when you look at the conference, you'll see teams get better as the year goes on, and it's a good coaching conference, so the games will be tight.
And it's always, again, we've talked during the course of the entire school year about, where the Wisconsin Valley Conference stands in the state of Wisconsin. Boy, there's a lot to like about where they are in boys basketball. We talked last week about two of the teams making it to the state tournament. Marshfield coming this close to winning a Division I state championship, East getting to the state semifinals. There's a lot to like, and it reminds me, and I think maybe you may have been around it, not focusing much on it in the past, but I remember back in, call it the old days, when it was still the 9-team league, and you had, just an incredibly deep boys basketball roster of teams with, Rhinelander had some great teams. West had some really good teams, and they couldn't kind of break through, even though they had some outstanding talent. East, when Teskey was there, had some great teams. Everest has always been entertaining. Stevens Point, of course, had the Hausers and Anderson and everything else. This boys basketball, I think sometimes we don't appreciate, in a sense, how good the boys basketball is here in central Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think if you're an average fan of basketball, I think coming out and watching a Wisconsin Valley Conference game is going to you'll really enjoy the game that you see. Depending on the teams that are playing, some are a little more offensive, some are a little more defensive, and you come out and you're going to see some high quality basketball. Just in the games I was able to watch over the last weekend, teams competing and getting better every time that they're out there, and finding who's gonna be successful on any given Tuesday or Friday or Saturday night.
Over the next week, still not into the conference campaign for the WVC. Still a lot of non-conference games. You said East playing a good non-conference schedule. They travel to New London tomorrow night. Never an easy game. Be interesting to see how Wausau West does on the road at Eau Claire North on Friday, because North played both East and Everest this past weekend. You can get that little bit of a comparison there. And next week, East taking on Marathon, and that's not an easy game that for East, because Marathon is a very, very good basketball team. And Stevens Point goes to Wanakee, but I'm looking forward to when that conference gets underway. And again, one of the bad aspects is there's just not enough conference games in the Wisconsin Valley Conference.
Yeah, there's not. You get 10 games.
It's almost like I'm thinking, hey, let's make it a 3-round round robin.
Well, I mean, I think yeah, some ADs would agree or disagree with you on that. The West Eau Claire North game is going to be interesting. Just the way my understanding of how they do the seeding and things like that, when you talk about the layers of opponents that they use to calculate the seeds and stuff like that. So when you've got a common opponent like Eau Claire North, and how they did against East and how they did against Everest. So it'll be interesting to see that matchup. I mean, you've got Medford at DC Everest on Tuesday as well. That historically Medford's had a really good basketball program, and obviously Everest under new coach is going to be that'll probably be a good matchup.
Merriwood South had a chance to see the Newman Cardinals at Wausau West this past weekend. Lost a tough one on Friday to Merrill, 47-44. Lucas Piffner, 17 points. Griffin Pent, 13. Quincy Fender, 11 for the Fighting Cards. And then it was a tight game for a half, and then Northern Pines pulled away from Newman on Saturday, 80-55. Quincy Fender had 22, 16 for Piffner for the Cards. And, of course, obviously rooting hard for Jeff Gress, who did so much great work on this program for so many years. But again, I think those are two really good opponents for Newman to get their season underway, where you learn a lot.
Well, that was where I was going to go with it, Chad. I know the coach learned a lot in those two games. Just watching the kids compete, and that was one of the things he wanted. He wanted them to be competitors, and I think he certainly got that out of them. And now it's just a matter of executing in the moments you want them to execute. I think there was certainly a drive for them to be successful, and I missed a little bit of the Merrill game, but that game when I had left was just an up and down the court game, good solid defense. And then the first half of that Pines game was the same way, and they kind of took over in the second half. But certainly a lot of room for growth that coach will take them through, and just hopefully set them up for success later on.
Two teams that are always so good in the Merriwood South are Marathon and Auburndale. And Auburndale actually lost on Friday to Delavan Darien, 54-47, but then they bounced back and beat Colby last night, 66-52. And as I mentioned earlier, though, one of the teams that is always the last team to basically play their first game is Marathon, and they went to a really good Regis team last night. They went on the road, and they won 72-47. Marathon has so much back from a pretty good team a year ago. I think the way Adam Jacobson and his staff always gets the most out of that team, I'm willing to say right now that I would be very surprised if Marathon does not have an outstanding basketball season.
I mean, when you have experience coming back, there is not a lot of things that can beat that, because the kids have been through a full season. They've been through successes, they've been through failures, and they learned from them. Especially when you get a mature group, like you start to see the success you can have, and putting in the off season. Like those type of things really build on what you can do during the season. So for them to have that much coming back, there's probably a lot of excitement, especially when they've seen other schools play, and there's a lot of excitement to play that first game.
Absolutely, and I know that Marathon probably still has a chip on their shoulder from just a heartbreaker to Auburndale in the playoffs a year ago. They start off with crossovers, and it's interesting. And again, we heard from Jeff Gress last week that he says that the Merriwood North is probably as good as it's been. Very good teams there. So these crossovers, and they do count in the conference standings for the Merriwood South and the Merriwood North. So when you're able to steal a win or two, or if you give up a loss or two, it ultimately can come back and bite you. So Friday night, you got Marathon at Rib Lake, you got Newman Catholic at Abbotsford, Edgar at Prentice, Auburndale at Phillips, Assumption at Shawamigan, and Stratford at Athens. So again, I find it very interesting. And one thing that the Merriwood does in these games, and I said this to Jeff Gress over the last number of years, is that these crossover games are always on Friday, because the longer bus trips.
Yep.
But it also takes something away because I think on a Friday night you want to have Marathon Edgar or something like that as well. So I know they still have some of those, but sometimes the Friday nights I think get a little diluted because you're playing the crossovers instead of having those main rivalries on a Friday night.
Well, those main rivalries on a Friday night are big because everybody's off work and they're ready for the weekend and can go out and celebrate that. It's interesting the whole crossover part as you watch. I've watched the Big Rivers and Wisconsin Valley merger in football and the amount of crossover that they have and what counts as a conference win and what doesn't count as a conference win in terms of, back when it used to mean conference wins put you in the playoffs. It's not that way anymore. It'll be interesting. And some of it is the draw that you get on these crossovers because you never know who you're going to get every year. So that's a part of it too, especially when they count for conference standings.
Yes, exactly. Great Northern Conference, Mosinee, again, they always play a very competitive non-conference schedule, and they had a couple of very competitive non-conference games in the past week. Friday, Mosinee defeated New London 64-60. Braden Reinke, 28 points. Triefstoffel, 8. They were scheduled to play Milwaukee Golda-Meir on Saturday, but that game was canceled due to the weather. And then last night, Mosinee played Xavier. They're always a very solid team from Appleton. Mosinee led 32-27 at halftime, but then Xavier came back to win 59-56. Triefstoffel 16, Braden Reinke 12 for Mosinee. Mosinee, again, I think Stoffel is just a beast, whether it's on the football field or the basketball court. Reinke is a very solid player. I think they're going to be very much in the mix with a team like Rhinelander. Rhinelander last season beat Mosinee twice to win that conference championship. Rhinelanders looked very good so far. They had a 75-41 win up in Ashland on Monday. But I think Mosinee, Rhinelander, Medford is always solid, but I think Chippewa Falls must be a little bit better than they've been. They beat Medford last night 65-58. Antigo beat Clintonville 76-61. So actually a pretty good non-conference week for a lot of the teams. Tomahawk beat Faith Christian Academy 81-49. Faith Christian right here in Wausau. And I'm always curious to see as they try to develop their athletic program to see how that develops and ultimately where it leads to for another school around here to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun as I've now week 2 into this the basketball world to see the scores, because sometimes the score doesn't dictate what the game is as you follow at the end and get some free throws and separate the score. But when you look at like Mosinee's got 2 tight games right away to start the season. So as a coach, that's fantastic. You get to see what your kids are going to do under pressure when they have the lead and under pressure when they're trying to come from behind. So there's a lot of learning that's going to go on here as the season goes on. And you look at Rhinelander, a significant win over Ashland. That's a team that having watched them scrimmage Wausau West, they're going to have a lot of success this year, and it'll be fun to watch them in that conference.
And also Friday, it's always fun to see the conference games begin. The Great Northern starts their conference campaign Friday night. Mosinee travels to Lakeland. Merrill is at Northern Pines. I call that the Troy Pieper game. There's a few Troy Pieper games, actually, because he was at Pines and he went to East for a year, and now he's at Merrill. So he's got all those schools that he definitely knows the way around when he gets there. There's not very many true road games for Troy Pieper. I know Troy's up there, I hope, listening. So best of luck on his trip up to Eagle River on Friday. Antigo is at Tomahawk, Medford at Rhinelander. So Medford-Rhinelander, that's always a very big game in the GNC.
I mean, going back to the Merrill Pines game, those 2 coaches have a ton of film as they watched each other live. They watched it on film, I'm sure. So the preparation for that game probably started last week, Friday when they were able to watch it. It's going to be interesting just to watch the GNC because it's
always competitive.
Yes, as I've watched and looked past on the history of who's won the conference, it's been super competitive over the years.
And I think it's going to be even more competitive with Merrill in there because they're going to be right in that mix with teams because they often play Mosinee in the playoffs. They're in the same bracket, so it kind of fits.
Yeah, and hey, Merrill in the powder blue.
I know
this year.
I'm not a big fan of that.
I was shocked when I saw the powder blues on Merrill. So I like the fashion of sports. For those of you that are out, I enjoy the fashion of sports. So while others might not like it, I do like when you step out the.
By the way, I gotta ask you then. The Gold Breezers for Wausau West hockey. Who made that decision?
Well, ultimately, Chad, I'll give you the history on it. So Tomahawk had the white pan covers
Right.
for the last couple of years.
Right.
And our guys, sometime in early January, we want white pan covers. And I said, absolutely not. We're not doing white pan covers. No way, not happening. Well, then they got to talk, and they're like, Coach, if we get to state, and this is early January,
I
Chad.
know.
And they're like, we get
Yeah.
to state, can we get white pan covers? I said, nope, you can't have white pan covers. We'll talk about something different. But if we get to state, yes, we'll get new pan covers. Well, when you're in the middle of a season, you don't always know how things are going to go. You know how you want them to go.
Right.
And then you get on that run, and you're like,
I will say that as a guy that follows Vegas odds, you could have made a pretty good amount of money by betting on Wausau West in early January to make it to the state hockey tournament.
yeah, I mean, honestly.
not because of what Wausau West was, because of who you had to get through to get there.
Yes, and so as a coach, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, we'll get new pan covers because
You're willing to make that trade.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and and then it came down to there was, I think it was just before the banquet, Coach, we got to get new pan covers. And I had honestly totally forgot about the conversation.
right?
And now I'm picturing the conversation. I'm like,
Oh, boy.
how about gold? They're like, yep, gold works. So they ultimately, the kids made the decision under some guidance. But, I'll be honest. I didn't enjoy them early, but they've grown on me. I love the way they look now.
I was going to say, when I saw them on the screen over the weekend, it was like, no. But last night, I thought, again, I could almost see it now. And I'm curious to see how it develops. But, no, you're exactly right. I felt a lot better about it last night than I did over the weekend.
I loved it live last night. Seeing it first in person, I'm like, oh, these are fantastic. And then when you see, again, fashion of sports, there's multiple options for jerseys. There's multiple options for helmets. There's multiple options for pant covers. So the fashion's there.
All right, and let's go to girls basketball after our fashion update. Girls basketball, it was the Tom Kislow for a number of teams going over to Medford this weekend, including DC Everest and Wausau West. DC Everest got a win against Crandon Thursday, 62-25. Lisa Chmielewski had Ilsa, 13 points. McKenna Bullis, 11 for Everest. Then they lost to Medford, 43-25 on Saturday. West, it's been kind of a rough go of it since their wins against Merrill, in the Merrill tournament, I should say. The Warriors lost to Medford 59-35 on Friday, then fell as well to Rhinelander 81-40 on Saturday. And again, it's a building process for Maddie Lysko and the new Wausau West coaching staff.
Yeah, but if you look at the halftime score of that Rhinelander game, I think it was pretty tight. I think there was maybe a single-digit lead for Rhinelander at that point, and then they pulled away in the second half. But that's just what it's going to be for them. They're going to have to learn. And as you talk about some of the teams that are experienced, this is a year for Wausau West to start to gain some experience, find some leadership, figure out who's going to put the ball in the basket.
Monday night, East lost to Crandon 51-49. For a program like East, you want them to win that game. They need to get that positive reinforcement, I think, as they try to build that program up.
Yeah, when you look at 51-49, they're in the game.
Yes.
I mean, I think
but you would sure want them to win that game.
To get over the hump would have been so meaningful for them. And as they get into the WVC conference, the conference schedule and some of that, they're going to need to find ways to define success. And I think, when you look at the program and where it's gone to 51-49 against Crandon, it's got to feel good for them to be in that game and to give themselves an opportunity to win.
Absolutely. And the last show that we had before you came, we had a couple weeks ago, we had Evelyn Tomey from Wausau East on. I was so impressed with her because she's a three-sport athlete and has not had a lot of success team-wise. I mean, it's just been volleyball, basketball, and softball. It's not been, but her attitude and what she has been able to accomplish and get out of her athletic experience, I would encourage anybody who missed that to listen to it, because I just was so impressed about the right reasons for being involved in high school sports. Again, there's so much more than just the final score and the final records for these teams.
When you talk about getting something out of sports, a lot of people want to go right away, what are you going to get out of that sport? And they think about the scholarship, the playing beyond high school, the whatever can come with it. But
Going to the state tournament.
Going to the state tournament, winning a conference championship,
So rare.
all of the success, like what people define as success. But what people have to understand is there's so much more, as I asked that question to Miley earlier about life. Like, what are you learning about life through sport? Because it is a perfect opportunity for kids to learn, to deal with emotions, to be a leader, to not have to be a leader, to be a good teammate, a good person, and what success is. So what do kids get out of sports? I think that list is much longer than the wins and the losses.
Want to touch real quickly on Stevens Point because last night they played Rice Lake over at the new field house at UW Eau Claire. Rice Lake has 2 Division I recruits going to UWGB. They're a team that one of the rankings number 1 in the state. Stevens Point went over there and beat Rice Lake 74-61, and Jada Seibert, who is just one of my favorite players to watch, to be honest with you. I just love watching her play basketball as a point guard. I mean, she just does it so exceptionally well. 28 points, Leah Awi 21, Ellie Strong 13. I mentioned earlier, we mentioned that I thought the biggest upset maybe I ever saw was Stevens Point losing in hockey last year to Chippewa Falls. I think if Stevens Point loses a game in the Valley this year, that might be a bigger upset to me because they are just so good.
Yeah, I mean, coming off the success they've had, I mean, their coach is going to have them prepared. And that's a big part of I think their success, that coach is going to get the best out of those athletes to perform. I mean, obviously, if you're playing against a team out of 5 players on the floor is going to have 2 Division I commits, I think you
win by 13,
and to win by that margin, you certainly have your team prepared, and that game will definitely prepare them for the Valley.
And the Valley begins for girls basketball Friday. West at Rapids, Spash at Everest, Marshfield at Wausau East. So again, it's good to see some conference activity. Merrittwood South last night was the first night of conference play. Auburndale beat Newman Catholic 52-32. As we talked about earlier, Marathon lost at Assumption, but a very competitive game, 59-49. And Stratford, a team that I think is really looking sharp, beat Edgar 55-34. They also have crossovers coming up on Friday night, and then some significant games within the league next Tuesday. So if you're like me, who love those Merrittwood South matchups that are within the conference next Tuesday, Marathon at Auburndale, which is always a battle, Assumption at Edgar, and Newman Catholic at Stratford. And GNC, I wanted to mention here before we wrapped it up, Mosinee had a huge win last night at Rhinelander, 43-32. That's always an important game in the GNC when it comes to girls hoops. But struggling so far is Lakeland. They lost to Merrill 50-46. They lost 3 non-conference games. It just shows when you have the game changers like the Wilmette girls and Eva Evenhouse, I think was the name, and now they're gone. And now life has changed a little bit at Lakeland for girls basketball.
And I'm sure everyone's like, wow.
And Melissa Wilmette's still there. So
yeah.
I give her so much credit because so often you see coaches, their daughters leave, and it's going to be a rebuilding. I get such respect for those that don't just leave a bare cupboard for somebody new.
Well, and I think part of the rebuilding process is the kids going through it, and as a coach, there's a lot of things that you can learn about yourself as a coach. There's a lot of things you can learn that these players can learn through that process. Like the success is winning is great. There's no greater feeling as a coach and as an athlete than winning important, meaningful games. But what people don't realize is it was 50-46, but you don't know what that coach defines success as for them that night. And I think that's some of the things when you see some of these teams that haven't had a ton of success, that's how you develop success over a long period of time. Is we need to win 5 minutes, and then the next 5 minutes we need, and you start to build on those things, and the kids get confidence. So that'll be a fun team to follow as the year goes on.
Certainly will be, and a lot of interesting action coming up in the next week. I will say the game of the week in the next week will be at Willett next Tuesday with West and Spash. I think, there's no rankings out, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's 1 versus 2.
That's entertainment purposes only, Chad.
That's what I always say, but I'm looking for some entertainment, so it will be entertaining, and I'm glad I have a seat because I hope it's packed, and it'll be fun.
Absolutely.
But we'll have a coach, we'll have a player next week, and we'll have you back again next week as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's BJ Brandt. I'm Chad Holmes. Thanks again to Travis Brown joining us here, and Miley Halkey as well. And we'll be back next week for another edition of the Big High School Sports Show here on 98.9 WXCO.